Welcome back to the Microsoft Flight Simulator A to Z series. Today we are arriving at exactly half the series, episode number 13, the letter M. In a modern jet you don't just fly with a joystick, you manage a computer. Today we're doing a deep dive in the anatomy of the box, the MCDU and its visual partner, the MFD. We're going to program a flight from scratch using the professional D.I.F.S.R.I.P workflow. D.I.F.S.R.I.P. Grab your flight plan and let's get to work. We're inside the cockpit of the FlyByWire A320 and what you currently see is the MCDU. You can see the MCDU has a lot of buttons, so let's go to them one by one. First of all, you've got the screen. The screen shows you where you are. It shows you the MCDU menu in this case with all those menu options. These menu options can be controlled by these keys on the left and on the right side. 12 in total. These are also known as the line select keys. Short, Lima, Sierra, Kilo, LSK. We've got left 1 to left 6 and right 1 to right 6. In some of the manuals you will see that they are abbreviated as LSK and then L1 for the key on the top left, or LSK R1 on the top right, etc. These are super handy and will allow you to go, for example, to this menu when I press LSK L1. Besides that, you will see a lot of, say, colors. And those colors are a little bit hard to see here, but if I go to the Init page, you will see colors already. You see the ambers, which are over here. Those are the mandatory fields. You need to populate them. Then we've got the blue ones, like this one. They are changeable. And we've got also green ones, which are not shown here, but they are active and computed. Besides that, you will sometimes see arrows on the top. Those can be controlled by what they call the slew keys. The slew keys are these 4 keys. So I can move to the next page, but I also can move up or down depending on which page I'm visiting. So either scroll to the list or flip from page A to page B. Now let's start with the action. We're gonna walk to the D.I.F.S.R.I.P workflow. Now it's time to look at that workflow. And the workflow starts with the letter D. The letter D stands for data. On the data page you can see multiple things. You can see the position, you can see the IRS as well as the GPS. All of them can be monitored and you can press them and then you will see the values, right, from the FMS 1 to the GP IRS, the mix IRS and also IRS 1, 2 and 3. Super handy. Now from this page, if you want to go back, you can press the data page again and will move you back one page and you can go to the IRS. Here you can see that everything is invalid, which has to do with the IRSs not being aligned yet. I know, you should have done it, but I would say I've not done it. But this also helps you to figure out, hey, do I need to switch on the IRSs to monitor this? Yes, you definitely should do that. Besides that, we've got the GPS. And GPS, it says the GPS 1 position. It gives you the track, the UTC time, the the GPS, the alt mode, the merit, and then the same thing for GPS number 2. That's super handy. But for those who paid attention, and if I press the data page, you can also see that it has multiple pages. And as multiple pages, you can navigate between them using these arrows on the bottom. Because here we can see the AC status, which allows us to see the active nav database, which is super important because in some cases you might use the incorrect one and it has, I would say, a huge effect. So make sure that you're always checking this to make sure that it's the correct navigation database. To go back, we press data again and then we will see the closest. For example, the closest airport will show us which airports are close to us. In this case, LPFR, that's the one we're currently on, which also explains why we're at 0 distance. Then we can see LPBG, that's at 64, LERT, it's 81, and LEGR is at 93. And you can see here a blue field where you can simply add items in. And that is being done using the scratchpad. The scratchpad is simply all those buttons over here because I can simply enter a value. So for example, I can put in LFBR and then hit this one. And then you can see that it now has added this airport, which is 573, say, distance, and this is the bearing. So this is how you can use it. Super handy. If I go back one page, you can see that I also can move to that second page, which I just showed you. And there you can find the waypoints where you can simply enter them manually because this is orange, because so you need to enter something. And the last one is the navaids, where you can simply add navaids and then look up some information. But we will discover that likely in a future episode. It's not needed for now. Besides that, on the bottom you can see that there are some options which you can use. You can go to the equitime if it works. And as you can see, it's not working because it's not being implemented, as well as the ACARS and print. You can go to these buttons if they are working. Not all of them are working in Flight Simulator 2024 and 2020, so keep that in mind. So this is super handy to look up the information about the navigation aids, as well as the AC status, which is super important, which tells us the engine and the active database, etc. That's where the D from Delta stands for in this workflow. Then we go from the E from India, which stands for Init A. Init A, simply press the Init option, and here you will see a lot of things. All of them are orange. For those who already looked at the first part of this video, amber simply means mandatory. You need to put something in here. Now there are a few ways to do this. Of course, the first way is to put in everything manually. But for those who are using SimBrief and configured SimBrief integration with the A320 from FlyByWire, you can also say init request. If you do this, then it will import all the data in the MCDU. But of course, that's not really realistic, right? So let's enter it manually. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the SimBrief briefing, and there's a nice way to do that. So if we zoom out and move to the left side, we can see the flight plan. But of course, we need to make sure that we're importing the SimBrief data. So I'm going to do that. And here you can see I already added, say, the source airport, right? The one which we're departing from, and the destination airport. And it was also added the route, the cost index, the alternate airport, the company route, the zero fuel weight, the cruise altitude, and on the right side we can see more information, right? We can even go to the next page, which shows us some more information. But for now, this is good. If you want to, let's say, go a level deeper, then you can also look at the dispatch page, because the dispatch page contains exactly the same information, only in a slightly more difficult, I would say, overview. Because here you can also see the cost index, you can see the departure and arrival airport, you can see departure time, arrival time, you can see the zero fuel weight, the estimated ones, as well as the maximum ones, TOW, right, takeoff weight, zero fuel weight, and several other values which we'll go to, I would say, very soon. The first thing we're going to do is make sure that we are setting up the airport which we're going to depart from and the destination. So LPFR, LFBD. I'm going to press Shift 5 because I didn't mention that. And I'm going to simply enter it here. So I'm going to say L. And then I already forgot it. Really bad, isn't it? L, and then let me move back. Press Shift 5 again. And then zoom in. LPFR. That was the one. LPFR, then this one, and then we're going to enter the next one, which is the destination airport. So I'm going to look at it again to make sure. It's very handy if you've got an iPad or something or tablet that you put the SimBrief on that one, because then you don't need to switch continuously. LFBD, and then I press this option over here. Now for those who are lucky and have, for example, the MCDU from WinWingSim or Wing Control, that's of course also what you can use, because you can fully control this nice MCDU over here. And then we've got the other values like the flight number, the cost index, and the cruise flight level, as well as the temperature. So we're going to look at the values again from SimBrief. I didn't add the SimBrief in the EFB, which I could, of course, have done. But in this case, I have done it because there were some issues with SimBrief update 5 beta, which caused some weird issues and caused, I would say, some weird things to happen. So that's why it's not here. So let's have a look at the values. So we're going to look at the values over here, because here we can see also a lot of other things, right? We need to understand, okay, hey, what is our flight number? We need to have the cost index. Let's start with the cost index because that's between brackets kind of easy. Cost index is 10. Then if we scroll down, we can also see the flight level, which over here, 380, that's the flight level. So let's go back to the EFB and start with the cost index because that's easy. We're going to press 10 and then over here, now it's blue. Blue simply means it entered. You can still adjust it, but it's not needed. Then we've got the cruise flight level, which we know is flight level 380, right? You don't need to enter the full number, although in some cases you can do it and it will automatically convert it for you. And then we need to know the temperature, and the temperature, there are a few ways to get it. One of them, of course, is by looking at the first map, because then we can see the temperature, right? So 22 degrees, -1 dew point, then we can see the destination airport. And based on that, you can enter the weather information. Always recommended to look up the latest weather before you enter it. In this case, at 22, I'm going to enter it for now. Don't think it's 100% correct, but hey, let's do that. And then you can see it now says -22 because I entered the incorrect value. And that's all. I did it on purpose to show you what happens. Because what you need to know is what the temperature is at that specific flight level. That's what the aim is of doing that. And of course you can say kind of scroll to this page using this one. Let me try it again because it's not working as expected. Move it down. Here we can see you can move it. You can't really scroll, but you need to click, which is, I would say, is doable, but you need to keep an eye on it. And let's see if we can find the weather. In this case, you can see that the wind information is here, right? So likely we're very close to the weather. And yes, we are, because here you can see the temperatures below or after the values. You can see the temperatures, right? So 380 -63. So let's use that for now. So let's adjust it. And it's also going to show you how to do that. And then say 63 and then hit enter. And then you will see it has now adjusted the values. Now, of course, we need to enter the flight number, and the flight number depends on a lot of factors, and mostly it depends on what you put in during planning the flight. I always forget to change it, to be honest, but make sure that you're entering it. If you didn't do it, then you can put in everything which you want. But I would say I would recommend to use the real values. So for now, I will skip it. But I can, for example, say, hey, flight number, what is it? KL and then a number. And then use that value. You can see now it has been completely populated. So there are no orange things anymore. It's completely, I would say, blue, which is good because we use the Init A, as they refer this page also to, using the scratchpad to populate the full Init A. That's what I should have said. Using all those buttons, right? Keep in mind, this also referred to LSK 1R. This one is LSK L6. That's how you can read it. Besides that, all the values are fine. I can press the IRS in it because that's the next one which we need to make sure that we are set correctly. This is the let's say reference, so you can say line on reference option. But for that, you need to first make sure that you simply enable the RSs, which is not the case. Where to find them? I'm going to quickly show it to you. If you go to the top of the aircraft, oh, let me move around. Sorry for this. Let me do it. It's doing it the weird thing. So let me reset the view. They're here actually. So if you switch them to nav, that's where they need to be. And then we're going to move back. And now you can see the values are there, and I can say align on ref, and then everything is okay. So nothing more to do. And here you can see I can return to the previous page, which is always nice. So the next step in a workflow is the letter F from flight plan. Here we're going to configure the route. So we're going to press FPLN, which brings us this window. This window shows us the say departing airport, destination airport, and if you press this option, you have multiple options. First of all, you can select the departure. If you would select the departure, you can select the runway if you want. And also based on that, you can select the standard instrumental departure. This really depends if you want to use it. I would say go ahead if you want to do it. And I'm gonna show you how you can figure out what the active runway is. Normally this will of course be assigned by ATC, but if I go to the airport itself, let me do it. I can see on the runways tab, I can see the recommended one. But in this case, there are two recommended, which I'll say it makes it a little bit more difficult. So let's assume that we're assigned runway 10. So I'm gonna press it, and then you can see a list of SIDs. In this case, let's see if we can figure out if the, let's say, airway is assigned to us. Because maybe the airway is, let's say, or flight plan. So I'm going to switch on the EFB again because it was switched stuff because I needed to re-record some part of the video. So you can see LAG4F, that's the one being assigned to us. Now let's have a look. Maybe it's easier for us. You can see here LAG4F. Hey, we found it. So I'm going to press it. And then what you will do is you can simply press insert. If you insert this, let's see what happens. So first of all, you can see that it adds multiple waypoints over here. So why did it do that? Let me show you in the EFB from Flight Simulator. Select departure, runway number 10, then the SID. You can use either the AirNavs or the other ones. Kind of select this one just to show it. And then you will see that these are the SIDs which are available, right? Okari, Gmal, Odemi, Nirak, and several other ones. And with the arrows, and then also in which direction they will go. In this case, ALU G4F has been the one assigned to us. And here it says, okay, there's also GNSS required. That's likely you would say something which is, I would say, confirmed by HC if we need to meet it. Now, if we scroll a little bit further in, I should say, then we can also see that, let's say, hey, here we've got that FR611. We can see the maximum speed. Then we gonna divert and then to FR621. And then if we go further to Urtis, and then if we scroll further to Alagu, and that's the last one in our list, which is super nice. But this also brings a challenge, because what we now need to do is figure out what is in our flight plan. So let me show you the flight plan again. And here you will see Alagu, right? Well, let's have a look at it. Alagu, that's the last one, which is good. So that's the exit of the airway. Then you will see DCT, which stands for direct. So from Alagu, we need to go direct to Ogero. So let's do that. I'm gonna move over here. And then we're gonna simply select the last waypoint. The last waypoint from our SID, which is this one. Gonna press it. And then I'm gonna set the next waypoint. And that's gonna be easily done by simply pressing the letters. So let's make sure that we type it correctly. And then use this button, which is number 3, LSK3R. Based on that, it will ask us, hey, do you want to insert it or do you want to erase it? In this case, I want to insert it. And based on that, it has added it. But there's an issue because we don't have that much entries. So what we can do, as you can see in the top, we can move to the next page. if we're lucky. If we're not lucky, like me, we can also use the bottom up and or going up and down buttons, which are, I would say, I think the most appropriate options to use. So we're gonna have a look at it. Did it edit? Alagu. Let me double check. Where is it? Here it is. Alagu, then Ogeru. So we're fine. So we should be good. Then after that, I need to go direct to none to. So I'm gonna repeat the same steps, but a different one. None to. I'm gonna press this button again, right? LSK 3R and say insert. And this is the way you're gonna continue. So you're gonna continue until your full flight plan has been added to Flight Simulator 2024 or 2020 to the fly-by-wire aircraft. So I'm gonna continue with the next one, which is GAM. Press the waypoint again, because again, it's a waypoint. I'm gonna do it and then press insert, and then we've got a lot of interesting information. And that's also, we're gonna switch now a little bit to the MFD to show you what happens, because it's also pretty interesting, of course. Now the MFD can be seen over here, but currently you don't see much because you need to do something with these buttons over here. First of all, you can set it to the plan. And as soon as you switch to the plan, you can see that those beacons have been added, those nav aids. If I would now zoom out a bit, I can even look out further away, right? I can even say go to 320, to the range of 220 nautical miles. And then I'm able to see this whole plan. Now let's have a look at the plan in the EFB. You see here L176. This is an airway. This is an airway. This is an airway. This is likely the exit of the airway, and then we need to go direct to VAVIX. So let's try to add the airway. So from CGAM, we're going to use that, say airway. So I'm going to press it, and then I'm going to say airways. It will bring you to this view, and then I'm going to enter some of the information about the airway. The first thing is the airway itself is L176, and then I'm going to press it, and that will say, okay, hey, to where do you want to fly? So we need to specify, okay, hey, where is the exit? In this case, the exit is at, let me have a look, San Sebastian, which means SSN. And then I'm gonna add the option over here. And then I'm gonna press insert. The reason why you need to do it is if you don't do it, it will simply not add it to your flight plan. So you can see that now it figured out, hey, you first need to go to Bagas and then to SSN. Well, let's have a look at the flight plan, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna move to the dispatch form, and then I'm gonna say scroll down a bit. Let me try it again. I said scroll down a bit. And here you see that Bagas, then San Sebastian. Correct, right? Everybody happy, and it saves you a lot of time adding this manually. Of course, you can also import it via SimBrief. It's even faster, but hey, this is the way to go. Then we're going to our next one, which is P181 to Aruna. So I'm gonna press the last item, and then press airways, and then I'm gonna add, in this case, P181. I need to make sure that I set the TO, which is URUNA. And then say insert. Now it has added more items to our flight plan. So if I go the right direction, which I continue to do the wrong way, you can see Aruna is now there. After Aruna, we've got, I would say, the directs, right? The VAVIX. I'm going to show you once more, because else you might think, hey, what is he doing? You can see the DCT, the top of descent. Don't worry about this. This will be figured out in, I would say, by when adding performance data. And DCT, it says VAVIX and then VAVIX to Lima. So let's first add VAVIX, because the VAVIX to Lima is likely something else, but we will figure that out. So let's add VAVIX. Can Aruna. VA, V, X-ray. In this case, it's a waypoint, so I need to press this option over here, and then I need to say insert. You can always review the plan before you insert it. I don't do that, but you can do that to make sure that it makes sense. Now, scrolling down the list, we will find VFX over here, or VFX, sorry. And VFX is a special one, because if we look at the EFB, we can see that at VFX we already need to be at 179, because we already bypassed that top of descent and we're at 179. At least that's the flight level which we should be at. Then if we look further down, we can see VFX to Lima, then 092. This means that likely this one is part of the standard terminal approach route, or it's already part of the arrival. But let's see. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the MCDU and I'm going to open the EFB. Inside the EFB, right, I already showed the arrival and the approach. So this is the STAR, the standard arrival route. I always mix them up. I always say standard terminal approach, but it's standard terminal arrival route. And here you will see the airnav approach. So I can open it. And if you look very closely, let me zoom in a bit, you can see that VFX is already part of this, right? VFX number 2, L from Lima, that's this one. So this is really good. So we need to use this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we're going to select that star, which will bring us eventually to D.I.F.S.R.I.P, which is at flight level 90. From here, we can, of course, let's say, land on the airport, but let's see how we can do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to press the airport. Then we're going to select arrival. Remember, for the departing airport, the departure was on the left hand. For the arrival was on the right hand. Then you will see a lot of things. You will see approaches via stars, and you can press any option which you like. But you can see that you can't press here, right? You can press, I would say, tons of times, but it doesn't work. Reason for this is that you first need to select, in this case, the approach. So we're going to select ILS 29 as approach. Then what you will see is that the stars can now be selected. And you can use those arrows, which we can see here, to scroll down to the list. And that's also where we will find the one which we likely need, which is VAVI to Lima. I would say here it's VAVX to L, but I do think it's this one, if I'm correct. Let me go back. Yes, it is. And I'm going to select the star. And then you can see it's ILS 29, D.I.F.S.R.I.P. That's correct, because that's the one we need to fly using the VAVI to L. And then we simply say insert. Now what has been done, if we would scroll down again in the list, you will see that VAVX and D.I.F.S.R.I.P are there. And likely also the other, let's say, navgates, which should be there. You can see the speed limitations are set. You can see the altitudes. You can see the, say, descent rate also. And then if we're lucky, also some cases, the, let's say, missed approach is also already there. And you can see it's there because eventually that will hold us if something really goes wrong. But of course, we do hope that that will not be the case. So now we've set up our full flight plan. So if we go back to the MFD, which you will see over here, you can see that it now has the full flight path also for this path. That's super nice, right? You can also, say, scroll up and down if you want. Or scroll up, I mean. And what you then see is something cool, which I didn't show before. Because you can see as I navigate to this, it also brings me back to my original airport. So I can use this one to move up and down. But it will also manipulate the MFD. So it will also directly show you, hey, where are you as in your flight plan? So super nice. Again, you can switch between different modes. If you prefer another mode, you can also switch to a different mode, but you can also move to the plan mode, which I do think is the most appropriate one if you're planning your flight. Now, is this everything? No, of course, there's more, because we are at the letter S from the workflow, right? The letter S from the D.I.F.S.R.I.P workflow. And the S stands for second flight plan. The second flight plan can be configured over here by pressing the sec FPLM. There are multiple ways to do this. You can either copy your active flight plan that you can use in case you're in an emergency, or you can define a different route in case of an emergency where you don't or where you can't use the original flight plan. So I'm now going to simply say copy active, which will make sure that I've got both. If I press the FPLN option, I've got everything, but also for the second one, I've got it. But you can see it said not active, because you can say activate sec, then this one will become active and will swap out the previous one. But you can leave it like this. No need to do anything right now. So that was an easy one, right? Then we go to the R, which stands for red nav. And red nav is here. And this is where you can set your radio frequencies. This is normally automatically done, right, within Flight Simulator. You can see the LS, right, for the ILS. You can see the VOR1 and VOR2. And in case you're using ADF, you can also see them here. How to change it? Really simple. Use the digit over here and then hit the sign, or hit the LSK key, and then you will update it. But again, not needed to do that because it's all being done manually. So it auto-tunes for you. Then we're at another nice letter, right? We are just, let me count, 2 letters from the end, which is good. Init B. Then you might think, Init B, I don't see an Init B here. No, that's correct, because you need to press Init. And inside the Init, you need to move to the next page. Remember what I mentioned earlier in this video? You can use the arrow to move to the next page, because this contains, again, those those markers where it really says, hey, you need to populate me because it's wrong. These blue ones are fine, but this is not fine. So you need to define it. And wouldn't it be easy if you can do it by using the EFB? Well, let's see. Maybe there is something in the EFB which we can use. So in the A320 annex, you can press this nice symbol, and there you will find the 0 fuel weight. Always nice to see, right? Really easy to use. You don't need to think about it because it simply is already listed here. So that's the first value we're going to put in. So 60.6, remember it. 60.6. But then we need another value, the 0 fuel weight center of gravity. Well, maybe we're lucky and we can also find it here. And of course that value is there, but where to find it? Well, if you press this icon, which is ground, you can see that everything has been loaded. So if you're using SimBrief, you can also import it, because that's easier. But here you can find that the 0 fuel weight center of gravity is 32.74. Keep in mind that normally you would do this if you stop boarding, right? But for now we will add the value, so 32.74. So that's something we need to think about, right? So 32.7. So we do the slash and 32.7 and then hit this value. You can now see that it has populated these fields. Another thing which is now, I would say, shown is the fuel planning. So the fuel planning feature on the MCDU should only be used as a reference point before fueling the aircraft using the EFB. Right, so it's generating using the value provided by this feature may not be accurate and does not actually load fuel into the aircraft. So don't be misled by that. So something to keep in mind. But we need to enter that block view. Well, where to get it from? Well, in that case, we need to kind of scroll out or zoom out, and then you need to look at that ECAM. And the ECAM here says FOB. And that's the value we need. And you need to kind of round it up to the full number, right? So say in this case, we will likely enter 2.5 because that's the most, I would say, realistic value. So we're going to do that, 2.5. And then hit this button. And now everything is set, right? You can see that the planning is gone. You can see that the other values are there. And suddenly you can see that the aircraft has started to calculate things. And that's the power of the MCDU. It has calculated everything for you. That really makes it super handy. One of the things which I didn't mention yet is that this is, by the way, also used, for example, to calculate the top of descent, right? It helps you planning your flight. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're at that last letter from the, I would say, process, from the workflow. We're at the P from performance. So we simply press performance, and then you will see things like this. So you will see the V1, the VR, the V2, you see flaps, you see flex to temp, and then you think, okay, how can I populate this? Well, there are a few ways to do. In some cases, you're lucky. In some of the aircrafts, you can simply press the button, right? For example, LSK L1, 2 and 3, and that will automatically populate. But as you can see here is a format error because we didn't calculate it yet. And by the way, if you want to get rid of these messages, simply press that clear button and you are, say, good to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to the EFB, because the EFB from the fly-by-wire aircraft has a super nice option. It has an option to calculate the speeds. The only thing which you need to do is enter the runway which you're departing from. You need to enter the runway heading. You need to enter the runway conditions, the wind, the temperature, the QNH. But you can also say fill from, for example, the OFP, or fill from the meter. Difference, OFP, simply it gets it from the SimBrief planning. Meter, it will get it, I would say, between brackets from the weather data. But then you need to enter the ICAO code. So I need to enter the ICAO code over here from the departing airport. So LPFR, simply enter it and then say fill from data. And now you can see it has populated some of the data, but not everything. If I go to the OFP and select fill from OFP, you can see that it also adds the runway heading, the elevation, and all kind of other things, which makes it more useful. And then I can press the calculate option. When I press the calculate option, you can see that it calculates the V1, the VR, and the V2. It calculates the flaps. It calculates the flex to temp. And these are the values which we're gonna use in the MCDU. Now let's see if it works, because in some cases you can press it, but here you can see the format error again. So that means that I need to manually enter all those numbers. So 137, 137, 139. So let's first do that. So we're gonna enter it, 137, 137, and then 139. Good to go, you think. But hey, we also had the flaps and the flex to temp. Those values we're simply gonna enter by also looking here. And then say flaps 1, and the flex to temp is 63. So flaps 1. And 63 was the temperature. In some cases, it will display also the value THS. You can also enter that, but then you need to say flaps 1 / and then the THS value with the up and down, right? So with up or DN for down. So keep that in mind, and that's something you can populate. You can you can use this handy calculator, right? Because this calculator allows you to do a lot of things, because it calculates everything for you. What do you want more? Well, now we have everything over here. We have the MCDU completely populated. You can see that the flight plan is there. What do we want more? Well, in some cases, and I'm saying in some cases, what you will face is that there is a discontinuity. So let me see if it's over here, because it's not always the case. Because in some scenarios you will have that discontinuity. And a discontinuity simply means that the autopilot will go into heading mode. It will not follow your flight plan anymore, and it's super important to keep an eye on that. Because if you see that discontinuity gap, what you need to do is you need to fix it. And there are two fixes. The first fix is simply fly using the heading mode and then fly into the correct direction. And what is the correct direction? Well, in this case, there could be a discontinuity between, I would say, or en route and the standard terminal arrival route. That could happen. It's not always the case, but it happens, I would say, not occasionally, but in some very specific reasons or scenarios. In most cases, it happens when there are two waypoints where there's no connection, or the discontinuity is after a manual lag, right? Which means manual termination. How to fix it? Well, it depends on where to fly. where you to fly, If you're using the online ATC services, then follow the instructions from the online ATC services, such as VATSIM. If you're flying using the flight simulator ATC, then it might give you the direction or the heading in which case you need to fly. In that case, fly using the heading mode or use a different option. And a different option I'm going to show you now. And that's this one, because we didn't discuss this option yet. It's the direct to, because the direct to simply allows you to fly direct to a beacon or navigate. So I can simply press this one, for example. You will see it's being added here. If I now would say, hey, direct, we will fly directly to this beacon. If I made a mistake, I can still say, hey, I want to erase it. And then, of course, we're safe because we didn't add anything, which is good. So that's why in some cases, if you see the discontinuity, fix it either by flying a specific heading, which is assigned to you by the ATC, or use the direct button to fly direct to one of the navigates, which is still in your flight plan. And that, I would say, makes it easy for you. Now, did we discuss all the options of the MCDU? Well, I don't think so. Let's go to them one by one. We discussed the direct to. We didn't discuss the progress, the PROG. This shows you the progress, right? Takeoff, the cruise altitude, optional recommended maximum, right? 398, the GPS predictive. And also from here, you can add, for example, a beacon where you want to fly to if you want to make sure that you're, say, or if you want to deviate from it. Some other values, such as the accuracy of the navigation system, which is high, which is good. Besides that, we have, of course, the other options. We went to the init with the init A and init B, where we would set up the default settings, such as where we're going to depart from, where we're going to fly to, but also the weights and a few. Then we get the data one, which allows us to check the version of the navigation database. And the flight plan and the second flight plan, which shows both the primary and secondary flight plan. The red nav to discuss or to, say, fine-tune your radios. Fuel prediction, that's also one we didn't discuss. But this allows you to do the prediction of fuel, because that's super handy. And that's where we added, I would say, these zero fuel weight and block fuel, although they were part of Init B, remember? But they're now also added or visible under that fuel prediction mode. And this is something which you need to keep in mind, because, hey, if you don't have enough fuel, well, then you're screwed. Then we've got the ATC and COMM menu, which we also didn't discuss yet. So I can say flight request. I can ask some specific requests, right? I can say direct to. I can say some other reasons. This is really specific. For example, if you want to fly oceanic, you need to request it. If you want to fly a different speed, you need to request it. And that all can be done via this menu. Normally, you, I'd say, likely are not using them. At least I don't know. I haven't encountered a scenario. Let's say that. I didn't. Maybe someone who's watching this video says, hey, you can use it in this scenario. That's good. The same thing is for the ground request. You can see the departure. Here you can see, okay, hey, you can add specific ATIS codes, stations. You can add some free text. Also fun. The message record. If you want to send messages or receive messages or even print messages, which is also an option. Then monitored messages, which is monitored messages. Then the connection. You can see the connection status, right? Are we connected? Yes or no? And several other ones. Usual request, right? I can fly. Okay, hey, due to weather. So I want to make a deviation due to, let's say, bad weather, for example. The D8 the digital ATIS. I can ask, say, hey, send. And that will ask for the ATIS and then says no ATIS report received. Well, if that's the case, then there's nothing. But if there's a report, you can also view it. I can also for this one. Let's see, also nothing has been received. So not really, let's say, useful, but likely I'm doing it incorrect. But this is the way it should work. Normally you can get or receive the ATIS information about that. Then we've got the reports, and the reports key is not active, as you can see. We also have an emergency menu. And then you can use certain emergency options. Also, that's something which we will likely cover in a future video, because I never used it. And to be honest, I also don't know how to use it. So I'm really transparent in that. Then we've got the MCDU menu, which allows you to go to the aids, which shows you some parameters which you can use. Also remote printing, programming, right? You can see most of them are grayed out. We go back one. We can go to the ATSU, which brings us back then to the ATC menu with all those nice options, which we discussed previously. And then the CFDS, also the avionics status, right? It shows us the avionics status. For example, the VHS or the H status. Simply easy to use to check your status, as well as the system report and test, which you can do instruments. And then based on that, you can say test on things. You can say, hey, test, display test in progress. And then we'll do some tests. So that's how it works. Not really say, well, not really. I would say it is important, but not really something you do on a regular basis. Besides that, we've got the airport. And the airport shows us this overview, right, from and then to, with all the, I would say, beacons in between where we want to fly to. So also a nice option. Did we discuss everything? Well, I think we covered most of the MCDU. Likely we forgot some functionalities. If that's the case and you're still interested in what, then let me know via the comment box below this video which functionality we missed, so I can record another video about that. This was another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator A to Z, where we looked at both the MCDU but also at that other display. To be honest, we didn't look too much at it, but it was the MFD, right? These two are interconnected, because if I change things here, they will be displayed on this nice display. Super nice. Next week, it's already time for the letter N from November. So keep an eye on my channel, because I will again post a survey or questionnaire which topic we should discuss for the letter N. And thanks for voting, as always. Hope to see you back next week. Again, thanks for watching.